I'm joined by the AXL crew. We've got Imperius, Jonathan, FPV. We've got Jay Rice, Josh. We've got Kumocraft, Leo. And then we've got Stealth, that's Christian. And we've also got Ben, sweet name FPV. And we're going to be roasting some DVR today. And it should be pretty interesting. So we all, for the most part, got back. Actually, yeah, we came back from the multi GP championship, and basically, like, we all want to do better than we did. That's basically how it goes, and we're trying to think of ways that we can actually do that. And the best way that we could think of was, hey, let's actually collaborate and like talk about the things that other people notice in our flying that maybe we didn't think about, and like let's actually go a step further and see if we can come up with like some settings that can be changed, be it rates or like different motors, and then also potentially come up with some drills that we can do so that we can just become better racers and better quad pilots overall. So how's it going, guys?
Doing good.
Pretty good.
Cool. So
Chilling.
I guess the first thing we got to do is pick who wants to get roasted first.
Ooh.
That's the question.
My stuff is uploaded to I guess yeah.
Mine.
Okay.
I'm okay starting with Sport Class.
Okay. Yeah. So oh, you mean Christian Stealth?
Oof.
We can. That doesn't. Yeah, it's gonna be a bit rough.
Roasted.
That's fine. We're all gonna get roasted. So let's see. Go ahead and shoot me a link to your DVR, and we'll get that loaded up. Did you share it to YouTube or did you do Dropbox or Google Drive?
I did it through the Google Drive.
Okay, so shoot me a link to that, and then maybe in the meantime, then we'll do Jonathan's.
Sounds good.
I think it's on the. Oh wait, yeah, I'll just put it in.
Yeah, everything should be in Google Drive now.
Track 2 midairs suck, Stealth. You're not wrong.
Yep.
Just wait.
Cool.
I've
So
got my Heat 5 and Heat 9 from brackets uploaded.
Oh, cool.
Mine's
Is that also
uploaded
in
as
the?
well.
Oh, is anyone's on YouTube?
Nah, I don't know.
Mine is.
Okay, let's start there because I got. Actually, no, I got it just downloaded. Oh, sorry for the sound, guys. That may be a reoccurring theme.
Oh, that's mine.
Cool. So, all right, this one we've got Stealth. And do you know which race was this? This was during qualifying or practice?
Practice, I think.
Track 2. Yeah, this had to have been either practice or qualifying.
I'm going to have to watch the stream back to look at the DVR.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I tried to turn it to lower latency so that maybe that'll help the conversation flow a little bit easier.
Yeah.
You could just play it ongoing, and then you can go back and criticize.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah, that works. So actually, I'm gonna restart this so that we can focus on it. So we're gonna watch it through one time, I think, and then, like Leo said, we'll go back and find some things to nitpick, some places that we could improve, and then try to actually like come out with some action items for like how we can go about improving that.
You want to do that per person, or do you want to put that up as like a group goal?
Let's try to do it like for each of these. Let's see if we can come up with some stuff, and then
Sounds good.
if we come up with things later, there might be things that apply to all of us.
Yeah.
So far, this is looking pretty good. Actually, this is like
it's
a pretty
smooth
solid run right here.
It's actually really like pretty tight. There are some minor corrections which happen to all of us. Like there are things where I could see that you could be a little bit tighter on, and it's just that those little differences.
Yeah.
Oof. There's
one
the
of them's
midair.
coming up right here, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was pretty gnarly.
Amari asked if you have a throttle percentage on your OSD, Chris.
I do not.
I really wish I had one on mine. going into Nats.
I have a G-force counter on mine, which isn't quite the same thing, but it gives you kind of a general idea
Yeah.
of what's going on at the moment.
Yeah, so looking at this run, I'm trying to think, like...
I mean, I saw a few, like, watch. So, like, the gravity gate part, that's the safe route, what he just did.
Mm-hmm.
If you find your line just right, it's like you'll never pause before you go through it.
Yeah.
You'll just go through it.
The way the
Yeah.
fast guys were doing it is they weren't making that full rotation. They were just dipping through the front side.
So
Right.
it's
So you got to
funny.
find that line and just go right through it.
I
The
actually
problem people were
struggled a
having with
ton.
that, yeah, that's where a lot of people were having their issues, is doing that line.
So the tough thing with the gravity gate, it wasn't an issue in the sim, but once I started doing it in real life, it seemed more difficult to like get the quad to start descending.
Yeah.
And so shooting it straight became really hard. But then there was also this line, like as you go through it, let's see if we can see it. There's this freaking pole right here, and it's exactly lined up where you'd like want to go.
Yeah.
I've hit it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So
I
your
hit it
options are
once.
either dip through the very front or make a little bit of an extra turn.
Yeah.
So
So the-
Amari brings up a good point. He says if you can feel any prop wash as a general rule of thumb, then you're not taking the line smooth enough.
I believe. Yep. I absolutely agree.
Amari's also saying, I'm seeing you get a little tick of prop wash literally every time you do the turn around the beginning of the triple corkscrew. So let's check
that
that out.
straight, when you come out of the bottom of the second double and you head towards that corkscrew,
Yeah.
you're having to do kind of a jump stop and then get started with it.
As
Oh, I
opposed to
see.
combining that to one continuous motion.
Well, and the reason you're seeing that prop wash is because not only are you stopping dead in the air, which is something you never want to do, but your throttle value is changing, which is also something
Yeah.
you don't want to be doing.
And it's also hard on your power usage. It's
Yes.
not efficient. You're fighting against your own momentum.
Yeah.
So something that I did once when I was goofing off in the simulator, I tried to see how consistent I could keep my throttle. Like, see if I could just not change my throttle at all and fly the course. And what was really interesting was I started getting really good lap times, but I started finishing more, which was also
Yeah.
really interesting. And I'm wondering if that could be something that you could try, like, because it also forces you to smooth out your lines because
Yes.
you're forced to conserve the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's something that, like, I don't know, we could turn into a drill for
Yeah.
next time we go practice. Because, like, especially for the power loops, if you just hold your throttle or try to hold your throttle as close as you can, it really makes you like turn that into one solid move.
Yeah.
Although I know for the power loops, you kind of have to you have to use a little bit more throttle so you don't hit the ground.
Yeah.
But
Well, the thing that I appreciate about having that G-force counter is when your G's are the highest is when you're wasting the most energy.
that's a really good point.
Hmm.
I didn't even think about that.
If you can keep your G-forces down, then you're carrying your momentum the most efficiently.
That's a good point.
Mm.
So
You just turn it on and it's calibrated.
I think we've thoroughly roasted Christian. Christian, do you feel roasted?
Okay, so
Yeah,
there's a part right there where you had paused it on that bow tie section.
Oh, let me go back to it.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'll start at the dive.
Amari said when you hit the triple corkscrew without moving your right or left thumb at all.
Dude, those are the
Yeah,
best.
That's
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
So that's that part. I don't know if
Which
it's like where the bow tie is, the bow tie section. When you enter it from coming from the dive gate,
Yeah.
you really have to prepare that part, I'm assuming, to get into like a smooth like where you smoothly come around to the next gate instead of like
Yes.
pausing or swinging out. Like whenever
Yeah.
you get swung out, you want to prepare for that or you want to train that.
Yeah, you should
like
have
turn
your
before.
throttle. You should have your throttle low, and you should be turned around before you even go through the gate.
So almost gonna go through that bottom gate like sideways instead of just straight through.
Like you're looking at the next gate as you're going through
Yeah.
that
Well,
one
yeah,
gate.
you want to be floating backwards through it is the idea.
Yeah, and
Gotcha.
something I also noticed is that Kumo, the line that you mentioned about coming out of the dive gate, if if any of us had done that line the way that you were talking about, it would have set us up a lot better because there's like two turns that have to get made. There's
Yeah,
this left-hand turn and then you descend into it and then there's a right-hand turn. But now you have a little
yeah,
bit of that residual leftward momentum coming
Mhm.
into the double gate, which is kind of the opposite of what you want. If anything, you'd prefer to be, well,
Right.
yeah, if anything, you'd almost want to be going to the right or just no momentum at all.
Amari brings up a good point. He says the optimal line, rather than roll right, is probably to roll left,
Oh, interesting.
which is how I was doing it, and we'll
I
get to
think a
look at
lot
that
of
later.
guys
But
were actually doing left. I just
don't-
was doing the other way because that's what I felt comfortable with.
yeah, no, I don't blame you.
I think, yeah, he's right. Because if you were to roll to the right, then
When
you would
you
just
roll to the right,
continue the
you end up
roll.
inside, and then you're having to make more turn.
And
That's
a
If you
roll to
roll
the
left,
right,
you have a little bit of a more straight line.
that's a good point. And then not only that, but the next turn is a left-hand turn. So if you've
Yeah.
rolled, then you're already set up for that turn.
It's one continuous turn at that point,
Now
rather
I'm
than two different
curious
turns.
to see which way I took it.
I
Cool.
think you were rolling left, Tim.
I think you're right.
I think Tim did left.
I mean,
Yeah.
I might just pull it up right now. I'm just gonna pull it up and see because now I'm too curious.
The idea is that you're wanting to counter those swing outs. So you want to pick the one that's best for that. And you want to look at the line as a continuous thing. If you ever kind of pause,
Yeah.
like you never want to get to the point where you pause. But I mean, depending on the
Yeah.
track design, you might have to.
Yeah. Those over-unders, definitely you have to pause at some point. If
There
you want to keep the
was
line straight.
there was one time when I was offline entering that. Let's see if I can.
So Amari, reading your comment, yeah, the rolling to the left will have given me a better line, but I wasn't like I tried going to the left and I wasn't like fairly confident with it, so like I was trying to just kind of get laps through.
And
Yeah.
that's a
Then the
big
position you were in, it was definitely worth taking the
Yeah.
more comfortable line versus the fast line.
That's kind of why I was taking right instead of the left.
All right. So Tim is at the point in his DVR where that happens.
So let's see on this particular run. So this was a bracket run,
Yeah.
and I do the same thing where I go off to the left of that pole. But then
Yeah.
I turn the other way too.
You're turning right, or yeah, you're turning right. Weird.
So it probably would have been better for me.
You definitely prop washed right there.
Yeah.
I definitely saw the prop wash coming out of that
Oh,
turn.
that's there. It might not be prop wash. So check this out. When you watch, I'm perfectly still in this footage, and that bouncing that you
Oh,
see,
and it's bouncing.
yeah, that's an artifact of the fact that our
That
video
makes
is
sense.
interlaced, and then it
Yeah.
de-interlaces it.
No, that makes sense.
But I may still have definitely like prop washed there
Yeah.
regardless.
Well, the fact that you made basically a jump stop there tells me that you probably should have,
Yeah.
or
Heart
at
of
least the idea
America.
applies.
Yeah. Heart of America says, great idea. I love this. You guys playing DRL tonight? I will be indeed. And I think that actually starts pretty soon. So we should probably start roasting someone else. I figure since we got my DVR up, why not start with this?
By the way, Tim, I loved seeing that quad in front of your
Oh,
Yes.
dude.
quad, like at the beginning. That was so
Yeah.
sick.
That was my
Full speed it.
favorite part of like the entire event. I'm gonna slow-mo it real quick. That was Dolma.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it was Dolma. All right, right there.
I was like so scared I was about to hit him, but I wasn't willing to like
Yes.
slow down either
So
Look at
awesome.
that.
because I knew I had to beat him that round in order to advance.
Well, you didn't even necessarily have to beat him. You just had to stay with him.
Yeah, if I had even been able to just stay with him the entire event or the entire race, I would have done okay. So yeah,
So
it's
he was taking the
interesting.
same line you were through that dive.
I probably could have done better if I had rolled the other way.
Yeah.
I was able to keep it pretty tight, so
Yeah.
that's at least good.
Yeah, see, you're looking at the next thing coming in like tight.
So actually, question on the right here. I've noticed a lot of people were doing like going in towards the left, and then some people were going in towards the right to
Of
that
the
first
double
gate.
gate?
No, to that the triple court
To the
right there.
Oh
Like
yeah,
some
yeah,
people
yeah.
were going from the last gate and kind of rolling to the right to the first gate. And
Yeah,
some
they would
people were
come
just
over
going
the
to
left side and turn right.
Yeah, so
See,
I think it's technically a better line to do the opposite of what I did there.
yeah,
Because what's nice about it, so if you come over to the left side of that gate and drop down into it, you just continue that right hand. It's just a big right hand
Yeah.
turn all the way through the power loop.
Yeah.
I had a tough time with doing that, so I decided not to. But I
Yeah.
do think it is the superior line.
Hey Tim, do you have
Look at
Ben
Amari's comment.
muted?
No, I haven't muted Ben.
Can you hear him? Because he's talking.
Well, he's muted, but that's his choice. I don't think he's not muted on my end that I
Not
know of.
muted.
Okay. Well, we
Can-
can all hear him and you can't.
Oh, what? It says he's muted on mine, but I don't know why. That's my bad, Ben. I might have you muted. My bad, dude. I unmuted you.
I'm over here like every time I open my mouth, you just keep talking, and I'm like, word, I'll just shut the fuck up.
Well, at least it's not on the live stream.
So Amari brought up another good thing where he said he just watched the grand final heat with the Vanover heads up and Drobot and BMS, and they all rolled right on that on
So
the bow tie section.
On the over under bow tie? Weird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think
The
there is
difference-
enough speed to scrub there that
Well,
it
no.
almost doesn't matter.
The difference is they were all dipping out and coming out the front, so they already had a little bit of momentum pushing left going into that anyway.
Oh,
So
He
the
was
right
also
turn would have set them
saying-
up straight.
He's also saying is he's seeing that they're literally pivoting in the air and not floating to the left or right at all.
Yeah, so they drop throttle like all the way.
The rule of thumb that I always say is how many movements does it take? And you want to
Mhm.
find the one that takes the least amount of movements.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Well, the reason that line worked better is because if you come out the front of the dive gate, you have to go left just a little bit to hit the over under anyway. So
Right.
they've got a little bit of leftward momentum that they then counteract with the right turn.
So there's
we-
actually, I have a clip of that. So I chose to go that route in one of the races for one of the laps, specifically because Chief was ahead of me and I had to beat him because we were in the transfer position.
Yeah.
And you can see how it changed my line. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's what it is that they were shooting straight through instead of going to the left. And that
Yeah.
totally changes your line going into the bow tie section.
Well, when we get around to it, I was turning left. the whole
Oh,
time.
interesting. So yeah,
So-
let me download yours, and then while that's downloading, I'll play this. See, I'm trying to remember. I think this was race 2 because I didn't beat Chief the first time.
I'm not sure how caught up I was with you guys bouncing between the corkscrew and the bow tie, but back to the bow tie, watch a lot of the DVR. Everyone's turning left into the corkscrew and then like corking right. Like
Yeah.
for the sports when they had us approach it as pretty much the exact same way. And everyone told me to set up the approach where you're entering the element basically over the top gate and just rolling
Yep,
right, and then you just hold the right roll through the entire thing. Is that
Yeah.
something you guys were talking
that's
about?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was it.
So check
Well,
this
in
out.
the-
I see Chief here, and I know I have to push. So I took the extra risk and went straight. And
Yeah, you
now
have to
I
go a little
roll
bit
the
higher
other.
and do that.
Actually, no, I rolled the
Yep.
same way. I shouldn't have
There
rolled
you
the
go.
same way.
Well, now it's appropriate to roll right. You just didn't
Oh,
let off the throttle.
interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yep. And I still did this. I never changed this because it was working for me.
Yeah. Well, here's my big issue with going over top of any of those gates is it creates midair opportunity.
Yeah, that's true. And
Because
also
people will
there's
be immediately above them if they're in the corkscrew.
and there's more to hit too. Like if your battery sags out during that, you can hit the top of the gate.
Yeah.
So let
Versus
me
just going left and around. Or going
Crispy
right and around.
Dave is commenting, all this theory talk is messing with my mind. Dave, you better get in here so we can roast your DVR.
Oh yeah, dude. We have Dave DVR too.
And then Carnivorous Rock says he's like, a roast? Sky flies so slow, instead of a stopwatch, they time him with a calendar.
Dang,
Oh, damn.
son.
That's a good one, actually.
That's pretty
a good
good. I'll have to use that at my next race. That's pretty brutal. All right,
Be
what's
careful
yours?
using that. It might come back to bite you.
Which heat are you thinking of, Jonathan, or any one of them?
I was rolling left into that over-under in any of them.
Okay.
So, heat 5 is probably the more clean one.
Oh, you know what? I can view it. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna.
Yeah, you can view without downloading.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. I don't think it'll be full quality, but we don't need that for this.
No, but it does have the YouTube playback stuff. So
Yeah. All right. So this is heat 9. This was your last run.
was it? Okay.
So at this point, I think you were in the consolation bracket. I don't remember who you
Yes.
were racing against. Was it
Bull.
Waffle? Oh, it was Bull.
No, Waffle advanced. This was Bull and oh, son of a crap.
I can probably pull it up real quick.
God,
I think
Jonathan flies so
K-Mead
smooth.
was in this one.
Oh,
I definitely fudged the entrance into the
Yeah,
corkscrew on the first one.
you went a little high, it looks like that.
are you sure this was heat 9?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing
It may not have been heat 9. It was my second heat. It was either 9, 10, or 11.
Okay. Could have been.
I feel like you're flying very consistently. You just need to pin the pivots a little harder, even though you did that one really good. Just in some points.
Yeah. Well, those first 2 laps were incredibly conservative because I was going to wait and see who crashed out.
Yeah, so actually, I'd like to pull up the 4-way.
And then you crashed out.
Yeah, I decided I needed to pick up the speed and lay it on the throttle a little bit too much and just tag that gate.
So here we've got you right here, and then Bull.
So
Bilster.
Bull, Bilster, and
Bilster with a whole
Flycucks is
shot
who it
there,
was.
followed by Bull, FPV, Flyclux, and Imperious.
Looked like Flycox was the first one to take off the blocks.
Heart of
but
America
let that
doesn't
field out
believe
in front of him,
in
and
mid-airs.
the way that we've seen these early races so far, and we've run 10 before this one.
That's why I'm always the last one off the block, because fuck mid-airs.
Yeah, I will say that is where you're likely to see mid-airs, is when you're all starting from the same position.
Yep.
So at this point, let's see, like, where are you at? So
I'm in 4th position right now.
So
He's
we
in
really
the bow
care.
tie.
We care about these 2 feeds. So we're seeing Flycucks is hitting the start finish.
Yeah,
You're
so
2 gates behind him.
Bull and Bilster both open up with 24-second laps, and that's where I realized, okay, these guys are in it to win it.
Yeah. And then on top
And
of that, Bull FPV is all the way to the dive gate. So that's like 1, 2, 3 if you count the slalom, and he's entering the almost 4 gates ahead.
Yeah, well, the big difference is my opening lap was a 26.5-ish, but the big thing is I'm almost 5 seconds off the block. He's 2.5.
And say you waited and waited.
Oh my
waited.
gosh! So Amari says he had a nasty midair off the whole shot. He can't believe he was able to save it. I have the DVR of that.
Yeah.
His reaction time was like 0.2 seconds. So let's see. So I think like I'm seeing you turn it up during like on the second lap. You've turned it up. That first
I'm
lap,
realizing that I'm far enough behind that if I don't turn it up, regardless of if I can keep it clean, I'm not gonna get into the transfer position.
So then here's the question, And then the crash is tough because you were trying to turn up, and I think that's what caused it. But you
Yeah.
were avoiding that in the first lap by not turning up.
Yes.
But here's the problem: Bull laid down a 24 and then a 27,
Yeah, he did.
and then on
Looks
top
like
of
Bush are
that,
having a little bit of a
his
bobber
next
there,
lap,
so
I'm
it's gonna
pretty
hit Bull
sure,
real
is
heavy. Looks like he's
similarly
taking
quick.
first.
His next lap had one fudge up, which is why he ended up with like a 26 or 27 second lap.
Let's see, what did he end up getting? He got a 122.
I can learn to understand.
123.
Yeah, so let's do that's
Do
82
25 plus 27
divided by 3.
is 25 plus 27.
Amari says that you have all his DVR, Sky, because he didn't get any of it.
Yeah, I gotta send it to you, buddy. I'll get that to you. I've been trying to sort through all of them. So his average lap time was 27 seconds, 27 and a
Yeah.
half, which
Mhm.
you could have beaten.
Yeah.
But
I
it
opened
would have
up on a
been
29.
Yeah. And then on
So I
top of
had to
that,
pick it
what
up.
was your average time like in qualifying and stuff?
My average lap times in qualifying were 25s and 26s.
So it would have been pretty dang close if you were trying to set like a qualifying time.
Well, fastest lap I had ever gotten was a 24.8.
Okay. So you were capable of faster.
I was capable of fast. I was purposefully laying off pretty hard.
Yeah. Literally, that's the only thing I see with like your flying. I'm looking at your flying, and your flying is solid.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a matter of pushing it tighter. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, we were talking about it in our chat earlier. I don't think it was a matter of the flying. I think it was a matter of the mentality.
I agree. I
got
think
to the
it was
global
just a
stage
strat.
and didn't realize that the competition was going to be so tough. So the sit back and wait mentality just didn't work.
No.
Yeah, but I mean, when I see you're flying, sometimes even when you're like under the pressure, the push makes you exaggerate your movements. And you're moving a little too hard, like you're overturning a little bit,
Yeah.
like on the slalom,
Actually,
and like on some of the maneuvers.
Yeah.
That's what happens, and that's how you lose time.
So let's go back actually, because I'm noticing exactly that. So notice the overcorrect, especially going into the not that time in the power loop, one of the other laps.
The second lap is okay. It's the third lap that it starts to happen.
Yeah, because I think that's when you're like, all right, go, like it's go
That's
time.
when I realized it was now or never.
That's what usually happens to me in A main. I get nervous and I overdo my moves. Like I just push too hard, and I'm fighting myself.
Now I'm seeing like that whole section right there. There are a lot of times when you are looking to the left of the thing that you want to go through, and then you come back to the right, or vice versa. So like, let's go slow mo here. So you hit this, and then here you overshoot, and then you turn back. Now, at first, I was gonna say like, oh well, you're overshooting, but I realized you're not actually overshooting. You're trying to arrest momentum. But what I think that might be indicative of is the fact that the change in momentum didn't occur early enough. And so you're stopping it later on.
Yeah.
So like there, you almost did it going through the start finish, but it ended up being just perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was clean.
That was pretty clean.
See, on the slalom, it's like an extreme correction. See that?
The double take.
Yeah, it's almost like you're looking away from the next flag. Like it's too much of a turn around it.
Yeah,
like
you were like pulled it in tighter, and this whole time I've had myself muted. So awesome.
Sorry, Ben.
No, it's all good. I'm loving it.
We'll roast you next.
No, I mean not even that. I was like trying to agree and offer some points, and like, oh, I have my mic turned off. High five, America.
So
I like to look at Heat 5 more because that one's more of a consistent run.
I'm interested in what caused this crash though, because you know what? Here's what caused the crash. Your battery was done, or is getting there.
17.9.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was laying on the throttle pretty heavy. Dude, if you watch it back at full speed, going through that straight is just insane.
Yeah, you had a lot of speed coming into that, and on top of that, your battery wasn't willing to arrest
up.
all of that
Yeah.
momentum.
I would say that it's a fine line between going straight at it and kind of giving yourself a little bit of an opening
Yeah.
to it.
Well, and that was the sacrifice with high KV, and I knew that was going to be a problem. But
Yeah.
How did your batteries do for during qualifying and stuff? How many laps were you able to do?
I was barely able to do 4 on a 1300. I could
Okay.
do 4 and probably 5 on a 1500.
Interesting. So you actually had better battery management than I did, because I could do 4.5, like exactly.
You're not running 5S though, were you, Tim?
No, I was running 6S, so that could have been. So I was doing even worse. That makes it even.
Well,
worse.
but it comes down to motor RPM, I guess. It depends on what your KV
Well, in
versus cell
prop,
count was versus his KV versus cell count.
Well, it
prop
got all
makes
the
a
way
very
to
big
like
difference in amp draw.
complete. It went all the way to complete dead. Like wouldn't even take off the ground. So yeah, I think that one's just strategy. Like when you get to something like
Yeah.
nationals, even though it seems like the top 40 is not that competitive, I think it was just that competitive this year.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you suffered from like the worst thing that could have happened, and that's like everyone in your heat finished, didn't they?
Yeah. Everybody.
Every single person in your heat finished. So like being
Yeah, they did.
conservative wasn't going to be the strategy that wins that.
Mm-mm.
That's insane.
Bull had one turnaround, I think, in his entire run.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy because Bull had been wrecking like crazy all weekend.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Bull came back and beat me too. So
Well, yeah.
hats off
He
to
was.
him.
I thought for sure he was going to make top 8 because he probably should have.
He was doing really well once he got warmed up and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So let's see. Do we want to do one more DVR or do we want to call it at that? I think we should do. What do we have? Let me look at our.
I dropped
do
a
we want
link
to do
if you
another
want to
pro
do
class,
sport
or do you want
class.
to
Yeah.
drop into sport class?
We can drop into sport class.
Okay.
I don't know if Josh did, but I put a link in the team chat.
Fly Life says do one more.
To start at. Oh, what up, Martin?
What's up, Martin?
I'm not seeing your link, Ben.
In the Facebook chat?
Oh, in the Facebook chat. Let me hop
I
over
think it
there.
was, yeah, it's in the Facebook chat. My bad.
Come on, Facebook. You can load. All right.
Yeah, when I came down to it, I think it was just a matter of I need to get comfortable with preloading and just getting out ASAP.
Oh, he's all fancy. He's got his sponsors, his team.
And I queued it up to the DVR so we don't have to watch the HD.
That's awesome.
Okay, also here, note, you notice the lines in my video went away? That,
yeah.
I think, was entirely because of someone else's pit switches, because it happened all weekend long, and those lines disappeared right before we take off every time. So I had imagined that someone flipping their pit switches on all weekend long, bro. All weekend.
That's super weird.
Then it's gone.
I had a lot of that too.
Huh. Cool. Well, this run is looking pretty dang good so far. I figure we'll
Yeah, I
just
didn't
watch it.
pick my worst runs. I probably should have. I don't know if we
Oh,
were.
that's fine.
I guess, yeah, rip me on my best so that I can get better.
Yeah. It's interesting just looking at the difference between the two courses also. So for those of you who don't know, this was the sport class.
Sport class.
And I'm noticing that dive gate is higher than it was.
Yeah, it was definitely much higher for you guys.
Let me make sure.
That's what I heard too. I think Christian or someone messaged me when you guys got down there and they started practicing. They were like, "It's so low." I'm like, and it definitely wasn't the same because we had like so much room for activities.
The one thing you do really well that I'm noticing is on that back section of the course where you make 1 3-gate turn. Coming up here soon. You line up the gate you have to go through, and you line up the bottom of that double. really well.
Right here.
Yes.
Thanks.
That's a
I
pretty
didn't
solid
see
run.
I saw a whole lot of people having to make a second correction once they were through that first gate.
Honestly, I think
you.
it's because I was super that turn. It was a mind fuck. Like every time I came around, like that left turn after the straight, all I would see is a wall of gates. Because
Okay, see how you do this triple? Sorry to interrupt you. This section right here. This triple corkscrew, when you came at it directly, watch this. Go back to
back up.
that.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for that.
Sorry, Ben, but I noticed your improvement in the second lap, and then I noticed your de-improvement in the third lap. So
Interesting.
this right here, you came right at it, and it just kind of sagged out a little bit. It was still good. I mean, that you do what you do. You do what you can. I mean,
I think I was
but-
rushing because I knew second place or whatever was right behind me.
right. But you'll notice in the second lap, you scoop it way better on that triple corkscrew.
Oh, yeah.
You come at it and you scoop it just in one effortless line to the next. Yeah, see how you did that?
Yeah. And so, Ben, like I said, I approached over the middle, or essentially like.
Right, you
so,
approach
like,
around.
you could. It's not ideal for mid airs, but like that's what
That's the
pros that
idea.
were hanging out
Right.
were watching me, and they're like, "Hey, you should do this," and I did, and it felt way better.
Yeah. And it smoothed the way you got it on that second lap. Just smoothed out that line. I wish we could
Go
pull up
back real quick with the DVR to like when I make that turn and line up the bow tie, and you'll see what I was talking about before.
Oh, to the bow tie.
Just like when I make that turn that you were talking about previously, I'll tell you when. It's like right at the end of the corkscrew, like when we make that left turn.
Oh,
right
the big
here.
sweeper.
Or yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, just
we're
let it play through.
we're
just let it play.
lagging. So.
It's all good. Because I was gonna say back to what I was saying. Like, I think it's the only reason I lined this stuff up. So pause it like right as I line this up, or like back up
that
a
was
hair.
pretty.
Like when I'd come around that corner, it was hard to differentiate that singular gate from the wall of white fabric that was there. So like honestly, when I came out of that left turn, all I did was kind of slow up, like check my speed for a second, and just start searching for gate that I knew I needed to hit.
Yeah,
That's
the wall
super
of
tough.
white being the barrier around it. Yeah, I see.
Tim,
Well,
can you
yeah, it was
squeeze
just.
a mine too?
What's that?
Can you squeeze a My DVR too? I know we're running times.
Oh yeah. Well, so let's real quick before we.
Right there is perfect. You can see it was not always the easiest to differentiate what gate was what.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and see if we can come up with. So I don't see a lot in like flying technique that needs to change. I think honestly, well, so I'll say this: there wasn't a ton of consistency in the line that you chose. I mean, there was. It was pretty good, but I think that's the one place that I'm seeing that there could be some improvement because, like, you found some really awesome lines, but then like repeating that exact same line, like for example, into the triple, Kumo pointed out on the second lap how that was a lot better. Let's see if we can find that. Yeah, here we go. So
there's a whole nother race, and this was earlier on. So if you do the next one, I know Josh wants time. I don't know if we're trying to rush to the DRL thing or not, but if we got time, I would skip ahead to the next heat because like there's a whole other race. And it was the last race before I crashed out, so it was probably when I was like most warmed up and most like in it. Yeah.
Oh, is that in a separate link or in this? Is it part
No,
of
it's
this
in
video?
that just towards the end of that video. Yeah, there's not a really like the cut is not super obvious. So
Okay, there it is.
somewhere. Yeah, this is
Man, I
right
had
after
a
the takeoff.
question.
Yeah, you
Why
went
are
a
you
little too
running
far.
black and white instead of the normal color?
So I'm not. That's
That's
I
just
ran.
how the DVR was recording.
Yeah, I had perfect like I had a great image in my goggles, but for whatever reason, Fat Shark DVR recorded it black and white.
Huh.
So this one, this was also right after I had false started by falling off the block when I preloaded, so I didn't preload.
That was super tight though. That whole beginning part.
That corkscrew was really tight too. That was a really
that was
solid
good.
line.
And this was, I had Byron in my ear yelling like lay on the throttle, because that seemed to be the one thing that I needed to improve. Was I was still like at no point was I really like leaning into it as much as like, and that was Byron was like getting on my ass because he's like, dude, you're so much faster than this. Why aren't you giving it throttle?
Dude, right here, this dog leg, it sucks because you can't see the gate right there. But this is
Right.
where all the time on this course lies, is if you can hammer the throttle all the way around that turn,
Yes.
there's
Yeah,
a ton of time that you can
there's a
get
ton
back.
of time to be made there.
Yep.
Ooh, that was a good turn.
That
Yeah,
was
that
really
was a
good.
really good one.
Because I was gonna say that sometimes going right at it, you waste time correcting when you
Yeah.
exit.
Hmm.
So you want to get that line to where you kind of
Float
go
it
a little
wide.
bit wide, yeah,
Mhm.
and then just bring it through like one effortless line.
At the end, you definitely kicked up the throttle, so like the coming through the start finish gate on that second lap, you were just hauling ass.
Yeah, for sure.
Man, to me, this looked like one of your really good laps that you just did.
Yeah.
That last one that we just watched, it all looked pretty tight and quick, in my opinion.
The only thing I'm seeing, especially at the beginning, and this could have been from nerves, because like obviously you got a spotter yelling in your ear, stuff like that. It's really high
Right.
pressure. But I am seeing a little bit of bobbling, and I'm not sure
And
if that's the quad
yeah,
or
it's
if
just a
it's
little bit of correcting and
It's for sure there.
Rocking.
I
yeah.
honestly think a lot of that is in the rates. I'm still
Mhm.
like fairly new to Flight 1, and I just flashed to Falco, and I just tried a new set of rates like for all of it. So like, I mean, I didn't try new rates for the race, but I'm that's like one thing that I know in the back of my mind is I am not confident in my rates. So like I'm
Yeah.
constantly searching like that like huge bobble on pitch.
Mm.
Like I know
Yeah.
I see the same stuff and it drives me nuts, but I don't really know how to get rid of it.
Me just looking at it, it's indicative of slightly too high expo.
Yep.
Okay.
Like if you lower the expo just a little bit, it should clean that up.
It looks like
So
you're
we'll-
flying on top of like a cliff that
Like a
really like
ball.
yeah, and you're going to the edge of the cliff, you're going to the, and all of a sudden, oh, it's too steep, and then you
Right.
have to
So
correct.
well, I mean, if anyone would know best, I'm not throwing you under the bus, Leo, but these are the rates you helped me translate
Mhm.
over from what you gave me in VD. So I don't even remember what the expo looked
Which
like. I don't
one-
remember if it was a lot or not.
How are these gates in relation to the gates that we fly at TOG?
These are the same size.
Same
They're 6
size.
foot by 7
Identical.
foot.
Yeah, these are. I was gonna say the same size as what we use, but not what everyone else has used. These are the big ones.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
I mean, you were flying those good, and here I guess you were just a little bit on edge.
It could have
And-
just been nerves.
Yeah, it could have been
Well,
just
and that's-
shaky
yeah,
hands
that
and
too.
gimbals.
Because like he knows what he has to do to get it like through.
Yeah.
Like I think it's like preparing the line prior to getting to the gates is something, but you got the pinning just right. The other
Yeah.
thing is like and knowing when to exit a gate a little early so that you can get on the next line a lot earlier.
Hmm.
Sometimes we tend to kind of like exit the gate and then react like right there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, actually, so this spot right here, you can see it. There's an overcorrection that happens. So if anything, something about your
Going
rates
at
is too high.
It's at the very entry. Yeah, right there. I think I just kept it too tight. My whole thing was like I know that I'm not comfortable at full throttle, so I tried to like beat people by being tight to the gate versus like outright speed.
It was working. It totally was. Even
So
at mine.
that's something I think both you and Jonathan, if we're going to try to pull a takeaway from this, like a practice that we can do, and this is actually something that I wanted to point out in my DVR that I'm going to be doing, specifically in my case for the sweepers. But I want to become comfortable flying at full throttle through gates while turning.
Yep.
And because it's difficult to become comfortable flying at full throttle. But I think if that was something that like you were comfortable at on this course, oh my gosh, it would have not even been fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true.
I feel like a lot of it just comes from like the fear of crashing.
It does.
Especially
Well,
that.
and yeah, I was gonna say. So you mentioned nerves before. Like it was definitely weighing on my mind that this was like the like second to last race before finals, and that we were in Florida, and that we'd like put in the effort to like leave work and take time off and fly to another state and blah blah blah. So like, it's just the fact that I'm so new to all this, but it'll get worked out with
Yeah.
nerves.
I was
think
gonna say
we're-
that like one
I
of the
feel
things
that.
with the whole tournament thing was really just like finding out
That was a hot
when
turn.
you could push and it was safe to versus, it was just like such a balance in my head of trying to. I sent you a link, Tim.
Oh, cool.
The thing, and now I could be wrong, but I've noticed this, and I just don't want people to have the misconception that when you're flying full throttle, that you're just holding full throttle and you navigate the course just pinning the throttle.
Right, that's
Now,
not the case.
that's not the case. It still requires letting off slightly, almost like a bump,
Yes.
to slow down the quad before a turn.
Yes.
There's a balance there to be had.
And it's
Because
like you
if
drop
you're
it,
full
you just
throttle
like
and you make a turn, your quad's gonna, blow out the turn.
right.
You have to like pre-turn a lot earlier, let off, and then punch it back in to where you can hook it and get the turn right just past the gate or past the flag.
And it depends very much too on the turn. Like those split S turns, for example, through the double gates, you have to drop the throttle for those, but you have to do it smoothly. On the other hand, for the start finish sweeper on the pro track or even the sport track, you can be full throttle all the way around that and apex it perfectly. So it depends like how often you need to drop the throttle to do the fastest line. It's going to depend on the race line.
The idea being that you want to push as much power as you can through the line.
Right.
So you want to make good use of it, and then you don't want to overuse it or abuse it.
Yep. So, all right, let's go on to Josh's. So this is on the sport class track again. And he's got some traffic here. And that, I bet, was screwing with your head a little bit. But
Oh,
you
yeah.
handled it well.
Oh shit. You also look like you're not super comfortable in your rates. Like I'm just seeing like the same kind of bobbles that I was seeing in my own. So
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
part of it's nerves for sure, and then that dive,
Yeah.
man. I kept messing up on that dive bad.
well,
That's
you and
one
me,
thing I feel like we're all going to need to work on for this next off season is getting really comfortable with coming at a dive from any angle.
Yes, I totally agree. There's almost no big multi GP track that doesn't have a dive gate.
Yeah.
So, Jonathan, actually, it's funny that you said that because I think you were actually spotting me for like since like the beginning since we got there.
Mhm.
You noticed that like when I approach those dive gates, they start off really, really high,
Mhm.
and I try to just kind of go just dive through them. And I think there's just a better way to do that instead of just straight.
There is, and it requires a lot of trust in your quad is the problem.
Oh
If you
man.
don't know exactly where your quad is going to be in space without being able to look, then you're going to have to stare down at it.
So are you guys talking about Flylife's comment? Because
I was
that's
gonna
exactly
say,
what he
is
said.
that in
So
relation? Yeah.
he just said, Ben, get your quad in the air, close your eyes, and do a roll. Open your eyes after you do the roll. If you over rotated it, then you need less rotational degrees per second. And I think that's
I
a
agree
really
with that, but that's for freestyle because
Yes.
it's like an input of like the way I see freestyle or like not like cinematic flying, but like where you do like what do you call it?
It's kind of like
Rubik's
an
cubes, or
extension of your body
kind
or
of
whatever.
like it's
more
almost
of
like you're
a muscle
inputting.
memory.
It's almost like you're inputting combos, like a fighting game, like combo,
Yeah.
and you hit it and it hits it just right, exactly. But in racing, your rates are almost like a sniper. Like you want to get rid of the pulse. You want to get rid of anything that translates through your finger.
and I think
at, like,
it's gonna kind of depend on the person too. So like
yeah, I agree. Like I've seen guys that fly really, really high rates in racing, but typically the way I see it, you want to be able to just barely angle your craft. Like for example, pitch is usually a lower rate because it doesn't take very much pitch to make an extreme maneuver.
so
So
well consider
what
this.
happens?
I've flown Betaflight stock rates, which are pretty low for like ever since I've done this. And so for me, if I were to close my eyes and do that roll, I would expect it to be pretty slow. And so if my rates were anything close to freestyle stuff, I would have over rotated. But it depends on what. So like I think that exercise of closing your eyes and doing it, all it says is what you're comfortable with. It doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily say what's best. And I think that's what you're
Well,
pointing out, Kumo, is that like what's best for racing at least is slower so that you can get the precision.
there's something to be said about that. Here's the big thing is if you do a snap roll, you're not relying at all on like being able to observe what's going on. You're relying entirely on muscle memory. And in racing, the idea is to be able to take turns slow enough that you can like realize where you're at any given moment and make corrections if you need to.
Yeah. And the other thing
So
too
close.
is that that's a good starting point, and how I would recommend starting is figuring out your end rates first. But then there's a whole like playground in the middle between the end of your stick end and center stick, and that's a very difficult thing to tune. I think Kumocraft has gotten much better at that than any of
Here's
us
another
so
way to
far.
look at it. Racing is like really high speed cinematic flying.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally.
Yeah.
It's a fun way to look at it, but I think it's true.
So
I
your
think
race,
I feel like that's why people who do cinematic and freestyle eventually become very good at racing and vice versa.
Amari
Mhm.
says you're never going to lose a race because you couldn't do three barrel rolls in the last turn, and I think that's very
Talking
true.
about high rates.
Yeah. There's almost no reason for it.
Almost. As much as I would love to try lower rates, I really don't want to mess with what I've got because I feel confident, extremely confident in my rates.
Well, so on the flip side, why not take your rates and hit him in the face with a fucking baseball bat? Like, I'm not even so get this. I was watching you guys in the pro weekend, and I spent the majority of my day on Discord talking to Scotty Doo.
Mhm.
He raced last year. I don't know. I'm sure you guys might know him. He's
Mhm.
cool as shit,
Fast.
and he's fast as hell.
Yep.
And he suggested he was just watching me fly because I've been asking my other VRL teammates to like help me improve my flying as well. And he was
Mhm.
watching me, and he starts asking about what aspect ratio I'm using and rates and this and that and this and that. And we completely changed the aspect ratio of my screen from 16:9 like HD down to like or 4:3 HD down to like more what it would be in the goggles. So like black bars on the side. Forgive me if I'm got
Yeah,
that shit mixed
I
up.
know what you're talking
But
about.
we changed the aspect ratio totally. Uh, the resolution's way grainier and shittier, and we completely changed the rates. And like I picked it up and I was garbage for like 2 batteries, and then I kind of have a track that I just go back to. Also, one of his suggestions that you can like every time you change something, you have a benchmark to see if you get faster or slower. And I was like, I don't know, after 3 batteries of dicking with those new settings, which were like monumentally different from what I was using. Like my lap times were identical to what they were previously.
Yeah,
So with some grinding, I'm sure they'll drop. But I mean, instead of like not messing with something, maybe like completely mess with something because you might find.
if you're going to mess with something, now is the perfect time to do it.
Yeah, I waited.
Yeah.
I waited until I got back from Florida, and then I flashed. Like I went from 1294. Like so many people in Florida were like, "What are you flying, Falco?" I'm like, "Nah,
Nah.
not messing with anything right now, bro."
So
Amari says, other than Vanover Nurk, name one other fast freestyle pilot.
yeah, I was gonna point that out, and then
I said-
also
I
he
will say with Jordan's last video of him in a canyon, if anyone watches that, I mean, I know he's not a racer really, like outside of DRL, but
I
holy
love
shit,
cutting
he's
slash
hauling
lanes that
ass.
way.
Well, it brings up a good point that
Nice.
I've always said, like, racing makes you way more precise. You're under intense performance. So if you enjoy doing both freestyle and racing, I urge freestyle pilots to get more into racing, but it just, it costs more, you break more stuff. That's why they don't want to do it. Then you feel like you fly great when you freestyle, and you'd probably do really amazing stuff in freestyle. But then when you get into a race, you do really shitty, and you got the shakes or whatever, and then you just give up.
So
Like that's how I kind of feel like a lot of it happens a lot with freestyle pilots. They try racing out and then they give up.
right.
And I mean, you could be like Steele and just freestyle and be a great pilot, but I really feel like racing makes you a complete pilot. Like
Mhm.
like
I want to
I've never
add to
felt
that, and
as
it's like
confident as I feel after racing. When I go over and freestyle somewhere, I feel super confident.
I want to add to that, and this is coming from a slightly different perspective of somebody who does not freestyle whatsoever, and is kind of pointing out like Amari is like freestyle so boring, and I personally agree. Like I don't get excited about freestyle,
Mhm.
but something that I noticed was after I saw what was it? Evan did like some crazy thing through the start
Matty
finish.
flip
It was
after every start
yeah.
finish gate
He
or
started
Oh,
Matty
whatever.
yeah.
flipping the start. And so that like blew my mind because I was like, wait a minute. Not only did he just do a freestyle move during a race, he did it at race speed. He did a
Yeah.
freestyle move at
Yeah.
race speed
Yeah, at
during
pace.
competition under like pressure. And
Yep.
what that made me realize was that Evan has total control over the
Control.
quad. He not
Yep.
only can, and this is the difference I think mainly between like freestylers and racers. Racers can make the quad go where they want it to go, like directionally wise, but freestyles are really good at orienting the quad in the way that they want to orient it, and they can do that very precisely. So if they want to do a barrel roll, it's going to look exactly like a barrel roll. Tell a race
True.
pilot to do a barrel roll, and it'll look all wonky and janky, and it won't look right.
Well,
I
a lot of
agree.
that too is camera angle.
Right, and
Well, I
freestylers
mean,
are
you should be
so
able
good
to
at
mix, I guess, but
The
freestylers are
point being,
good at
everybody should do
compensating.
both.
yeah, I
Exactly.
got you.
So I'm actually going to be taking it upon myself to start learning, maybe not even necessarily just freestyle, but
I mean,
quad
you got
control,
freestyle
orientation control.
frames at your disposal now too, if you so choose to build one.
Yeah, if you're going to build out a freestyle quad, check out the Super G. That's
All right, so the
from.
guys in the chat looks like they want to see some roasting, so let's roast this guy.
Okay,
All right,
hold on,
all
hold
right.
on. Let me,
Speaking of, Amari brought up a
let me,
funny point, and since we're talking about freestyle, everyone got to remember that Evan definitely did some Matty flips on that start finish gate at the end of the top 16.
Yep,
Yep.
that's what we were
Yeah.
saying. Like, that's what made me realize it. It's like, you got to do, I think you should do both to be a fully complete pilot.
Well,
What are we roasting here?
Okay, hold on. I just want to say this,
Hang
Tim,
on.
is that really from just watching this footage myself, this is kind of what I pulled from it, is that in terms of sequences to practice, like the whole like throttling to a dive gate and then having something to sequence after that was definitely hard. So
I was
You'll
gonna say
get
I
it.
noticed you pause, but you
Okay.
also attacked the entrance of the corkscrew on that last run like way tighter than I did. I always felt like I had a slight hesitation, and you seemed to throttle right through it.
Yeah, I think if
Okay.
anything, that was something that Josh really improved on going into Nats, like immediately before Nats, because like on the GQ, all of his time was just in the lack of high throttle, but he was super clean through everything. And so I think that's just going to be it's that same practice where it's going to be like practice going fast,
I
because
feel like, sorry, I feel like Josh is kind of like breaking out of his shell of like noobness,
mhm,
where he's still kind of like going to a gate and then countering his direction and trying to pin it, like to try to like arrest and then aim at the other gate to it. You know how
mm,
when you're new, you kind of like go right at a gate and then turn around and then line up to the other gate. So I noticed that he's edging out of that. He's starting to be a lot more like where his lines are starting to connect a lot better.
I
But there's
see what you're
still
saying.
moments where, like this gate, for example, he's going to, like directly back to it instead of like angling the quad or banking the quad through the gravity gate.
Yep.
You know,
So
So
um,
I hate to cut this short. Um, I'm going to be participating in the DRL tournament tonight, though. So
Oh,
Yeah,
baby.
and that
let's get
starts
started.
right now.
Uh,
It sucks because I had a point to make.
well, go ahead and make it. We got
Nobody's
Yeah.
talking about line of sight. If you want to learn how to have ultimate control over your quad, line of sight.
Yeah,
Mm,
talk Dev,
I
and I
need to
bet he'll
do
tell you
that.
the same thing.
I used to be really shitty at line of sight, and I took it upon myself to get good at line of sight, and I feel way more confident in flying, regardless of what my rates are, or the
Interesting.
camera tilt, or anything like that, because I know how
That's
a
a good
quad
point.
reacts.
Yeah,
So-
that's a good point. I should actually start doing that myself.
It'll give some perspective. So anyway, thank you guys for joining the stream. We're gonna probably try to turn this into a regular thing because we want to get better as pilots, and I think the only way to do that is to get together and to talk and to like actually study game tape. So that's what we're gonna be doing. If you liked this type of content, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Let us know that it's something people care about, and yeah, hopefully we'll see you guys in the next live stream. Adios.